Do you feel like you can only live on lettuce and water in order to keep your weight at a stable place that you actually like? If it sounds like you, stick around because in this conversation, we're going to discuss how to keep your weight in a place that you like it without having to sacrifice any part of you. My name's Leslie Urbis. I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer, and I have a friend on with me today to have this conversation. So, Gemma, let me throw it over to you. Do you have a question or something you've noticed around this subject?
Yeah, so I think myself included, but also on behalf of the clients that I typically work with, we're getting to that age where it's getting a bit trickier now to lose the weight that we might not want to have. Jeans are getting tighter, that sort of thing. And I think it's that scenario where when we're younger, we don't have to make a massive amount of sacrifice or effort to shift our weight. But the older we get, the harder it seems to become. And what I've noticed, certainly for myself, is that I just end up accepting it and sort of just going to buy the bigger sized clothes rather than actually figuring out the best foods to eat or the best exercise regime to stick to and having that discipline and commitment to stick with it.
I love this because everything you said is very much opposite of what I teach in the digestion code. Because, right, everything you said, originally it was like, I'll drop the chocolate muffin and it'll come back down, or I have to go out and buy the bigger jeans, or
Yeah.
I have to go find this exercise plan or this diet plan that's going to give me my thing, right? And so on this channel, we talk about how we've gone from selfless overachievers to wholly embracing ourselves. And I feel like this is a very big thing around an achiever, right? When we achieve things, we want to also achieve well in our body. And we were taught from a young age that our body is not ours, right?
Mm.
To a point. The doctor knows what's good for your body. The doctor knows these things. Mom knows we need to eat this food. Mom knows what needs to go on our plate. Mom knows the time dinner is, right? Sound familiar?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we have this programming in our brain that tells us all of these other people are smarter than us. So then, don't get me wrong, I'm a dietitian and a personal trainer, so that's a certification of mine. We then turn to, okay, well, let me go find someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us have been like, we're going to go opposite. We're not going to trust the person with the certification. We're going to just trust the woman that's done it, right?
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
going to go find that woman who embodies to what I see them doing, right? And I always think of a personal trainer or a fitness guru or like a bikini competition person or someone that's running the Olympics right now, because we're in the middle of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we think about them and we're like, their body is in peak shape.
Yeah.
But do you think that they're not sacrificing on some level to be in that shape?
Mm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
they can't go out and have, let's say they're all in Paris right now, right? Paris is wonderful. Do you think they're all eating creme brulees and chocolate? Chocolate, what are those called? I can't think of those chocolate.
Another pan au chocolat. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Oh my gosh. I love those so much. Like every time I'm there, I'm like, two for breakfast, please. Like two for
Yes,
breakfast.
and
Like
the croissants. Everything.
exactly. Like I'm just gonna go all out and not feel guilty, right? So they are also sacrificing. That person who has that immense, intense body is sacrificing, right?
Mm.
And that's the thing that we don't see. That personal trainer is sacrificing. They're in the gym multiple times, okay?
Mhm.
Now, maybe they're not because they like what they're doing, okay? I think every Olympic athlete out there likes what they're doing. So they're
Mhm.
not viewing it as sacrifice. But to us, the business person, the person who might be struggling with it, that kind of is a sacrifice. That chocolate muffin tastes good. I
Mhm.
do a good job. I work. And now the food has become a reward. So do you
Yeah.
see how I can take food to make it sacrifice or I can make it a reward?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So what has to happen for us to do this is for three steps. One, we have to uncover what's actually happening internal. So when we go to, okay, I have this problem, I have to solve it. It must be outside of me. The answer
Yeah.
isn't really there. It's really in here through our unique digestion code. Your digestion code can tell you, should you eat later in the day? Should you start eating earlier? Do you need multiple meals? Do you need big meals? Do you need to eat a ton of calories? Do you need little calories? believe it or not, some people have to eat a ton of calories some days and little calories other days.
No way.
Yeah, so each person's internal flow is slightly different. And that's based on ourself and our unique digestion code, right? So that's one, going internal to find, okay? The second piece is really noticing what the chocolate muffin represents. Now, I'm reminded of a Mel Robbins podcast where she talked about alcohol. She talked about alcohol with someone else and about how, like, she's like, I get done with work and I like to have a drink. And the woman explained that when she ended work in the day throughout her life, she connected it with a cocktail. So it's just the next thing. It's the habit thing, right? So what is the relation? Is the chocolate muffin just a habit? Is there more to it? Is there a story? Like, this chocolate muffin makes me feel amazing. Like, I did it. Like, back in the day, maybe I couldn't afford the chocolate muffin. Maybe it was days that I could have the chocolate muffin and others that I was like, no, I should keep the $1.50 or whatever it is, right? Does that make sense on that one? So really understanding, what is the connection to the chocolate muffin? Is it that when I don't have it, I feel like I have to sacrifice because I really want it? Is it that it does have a huge representation and that it means more to me than a chocolate muffin? It means my freedom, because this is me being able to eat while working because I work for myself or whatever it may be? Or does it mean something that's just a routine, a habit? Really looking at that piece and our mental connection. Okay. And then the last, go ahead. Yeah, thanks. And then the last piece I really want to get to is that when you're looking at this from a perspective, because we talked about as we've aged, we were programmed that when we age, we have to lose these things.
Right.
So there's I'll tag it here again, but I've tagged it before on my channel. There's a video by Bruce Lipton, I believe, that he talks about on the day we're born with our entire DNA. We're not born with part of it. It's just only part of it is being expressed, right? So we could be born with the DNA to have cancer, but we don't have cancer when we're born as a baby. Maybe some do, but we weren't, right? But we could have the gene. So how do we get the cancer expressed? Well, in order to express something new from your DNA, you have to call on the pattern. So something happens in our life where we call on the pattern. So for me, I'm 38 and I'm going to be 39 in October. So it's not far away. And I think it was maybe 6 months ago where I was like, I'm 38 and a half. Wow, I'm close to 40. I can't believe I'm close to 40. Like, it didn't like really hit me, you know, still feel like I'm in my early 30s or something. And I went, wow, I'm in my late 30s. And it was shortly after that I noticed something shifted in my gut. Now, my mom and my grandma both told me that in their upper 30s, they began to have gut issues.
No way.
So when I processed, because this is what I do for a living, as I was feeling like, why is my gut so off? Why is it off? Like, I can't get it regulated. Something is really off. What did I do? What did I change? Something's there. I processed, I was living out the programming because my mom was very close to me. My grandma was very close to her. So it was like bing, boom, bang, right? I would, of course, live this out from programming. So I oftentimes ask people when they're blaming it on aging to just look back. I'm not denying hormone shifts happen. I'm not denying perimenopause, menopause, all these things occur. What I'm asking people to is to open their minds to a few possibilities. Was it the programming that maybe my parents explained? Oh, well, as we get older, it's harder to lose weight. It's harder because we have these hormone shifts going on. It's harder because of this. And so it's a story we bought. We weren't expressing it in our 20s and 30s because we weren't older. Now we've hit the age they were talking about it as. So now we call on the gene to express what they were telling us. Now, I cycle this into menopause and perimenopause and things like that too, because it's interesting to me that in China, there is very little menopause side effects.
Really?
And other countries. The US has the very top issues with menopause, which would make sense in my world because I'm 38. And when I went to the OBGYN not too long ago, She literally said to me, you are not alone in perimenopause. You have issues, you come to me, we give you hormones. You are not alone. I didn't even bring it up. It was given to me. Now, me being an aware 38-and-a-half-year-old, I was like, isn't that interesting? She's
Yeah.
already assuming I'm going to need it. I'm assuming I'm going to want it. I assume I don't want to be alone, versus the fact that my brain is like, I'm actually going to prove the miracle. I want to prove the miracle. And that's the last shift in both of those that I want to have. Okay, so I was given this story. This is the negative story I don't want. I want to use the law of polarity and go to the opposite side, and I want to prove the miracle. I want to prove that in my 50s, in my 40s, in my 60s, I'm actually lighter, leaner, healthier. And I do get the question then sometimes from people like, well, what about if you are already there? Like, have you ever helped somebody there? One of my parents' best friends, she was 59 when she started to see me. She is now about to be 65. She is 35 pounds lighter. She has not gained back 1 pound since she has worked with me. She is fit, happy, eats how she wants, drinks how she wants, wears bikinis, does it all. So I'm like,
I love it.
anyone can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So does that make sense on how to use those tools? So that way you can claim it. You can change it for yourself instead of what's my next thing that I have to go get.
Yeah, we're always looking outside of ourselves, aren't we, for the next quick fix? Like, all these supplements and pills and fad diets and, the next fancy Zumba exercise class is a constant, perpetual, like looking outside of ourselves. So what you're saying makes absolute sense, especially with the conditioning thing. Like that really hits home for me. It's like every Friday and Saturday night. Well, it's Friday and Saturday night, get a bottle of wine open, it's just because it's a Friday and Saturday night. It's like what you're saying about the end of work. It's 5 o'clock. That's a bottle of beer time. Come on, where's the beers, people? Like it's just part of this conditioning, and it's such a habitual sort of pattern that it's just like anything, isn't it? Once you break it, then it becomes like not a thing anymore. But yeah, same with eating. Like breakfast is at breakfast time, lunch is at lunchtime, dinner's at dinner time. Like it's just all part of the conditioning.
100%. Yeah. And that's the cool thing. You get to break it. You get to choose it. So awesome. Well, I'm glad that that gave you some clarity, but I also know that you are an amazing woman who does things like co-working retreats and stuff like that. So I'd love it if you just share a little bit about yourself, and I will include her links below so people can learn who you are, because you're absolutely fabulous. If you don't mind chatting about yourself for a few minutes.
I don't mind at all. So yeah, my co-working abroad trips, this is so funny, Leslie, that I talk a lot about taking inspired action, and I follow Joe Dispenza very clearly. I know you're a big fan of Dr. Joe as well, and like his whole formula to manifestation and creating the success and the results and dream goals that you want is setting a clear intention from an elevated emotion and taking inspired action. And he's all about harnessing the power of the subconscious mind, which is exactly my jam. And it's just so funny. This Malaga thing was a perfect example of all of that, because I was on my family holiday a couple of weeks ago in Corfu, left in 38 degrees, arrived back in the UK to Manchester in 11 degrees. And I was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. How can I get more travel and sunshine in my life and be surrounded by other like-minded women, right? Like, because I think it can be lonely when you're working as a solopreneur. And I know you, like me, with little kids, and you're sort of juggling family life with business life. And I just had this light bulb idea of like a co-working trip abroad, right? It's not a retreat. It's not got the retreat price tag, which I think puts a lot of people off of these types of trips because retreats are expensive. And my guilty pleasure is actually property perving, like looking at beautiful villas and looking at flights. That is my guilty pleasure. I'm such a sad person that I do that. But I was like, I could actually make something of that and organize a trip. And the emotion in me just went whoop, like that. I was like, oh my God, this is exciting. This could be a thing, right? So I had this idea. There's my clear intention with the emotion that came up. And I just took inspired action. I just presented it to the ladies in my mastermind. And I was like, I've got this idea. Is it crazy or is it amazing? And they were like, it's amazing. Book me in. And it's a sellout. That happened within about 4 days. So I just like, I'm all about things like that. Like when you have those light bulb moments and you're open to those messages and serendipities and opportunities, and you go with the flow and you're in that flow state and you just do it, you take the inspired action, that's when the magic happens, right? And I think a lot of us are so busy on our little hamster wheels, like just doing with our to-do list. And it creates this tunnel vision that we lose sight of those glimmers and those opportunities and everything that's presented to us. And that's my job. That's my job, is to help women, to help entrepreneurs I mainly work with, although I do sometimes work with employed women as well. And it's really to sort of step off of the hamster wheel, get out of your self-sabotage pattern, literally put it down, step back, and let's step into your best self and really create the life that you want. And I know that sounds a bit cliche, but that is what my program does. It's a whole, it takes quite a different, unique approach. And I think that's why you and I are so aligned, because it's a whole mind-body connection. This is not a cognitive exercise, the things that I do. It's very experiential, and that's why I love it so much, because it really connects the mind body. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah,
I love it. Awesome. Well, if you're interested in connecting with her too, all the links will be below here in the video notes.
okay.
And thank you for your question. If you guys enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel as always. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.